Amazon founder Jeff Bezos has criticized a tweet from U.S. President Joe Biden calling for oil executives to reduce gasoline prices. In a Twitter exchange over the weekend, the White House pushed back against Bezos, saying that elevated prices are, quote, not basic market dynamics. It's a market that is failing the American consumer. For more on this, let's bring in Bloomberg's Roz Matheson. Roz, what's going on here?
Well, as you said, there's been another Twitter dispute between Jeff Bezos and the White House. This one's really over the price of gasoline. And the suggestion from the White House is there's too much of a margin between what large oil companies are paying and what consumers are then paying at the pump. So basically suggesting a windfall gain for these oil companies. And of course, that's drawn the rebuke from Jeff Bezos, saying the White House either misunderstands economic policy or is trying to misdirect the problem away onto others. So it's basically an argument about who's responsible really for what we're seeing in terms of spiking inflation in the US. The interest, of course, of the White House is to say that it's not entirely the problem of the government either that caused it or in terms of how to fix it, and that these big companies need to play a part. And certainly a sign that that inflation battle in the US is really just heating up. And it starts that spat that began in May. Of course, there was a previous Twitter dispute between Bezos and the White House also over inflation.
Yeah, it's always remarkable to see these types of high-profile disputes happening just over Twitter, free for us all to see. I mean, Roz, look, of course it is very political for the White House when it comes to inflation, with midterms very soon on the horizon, but of course a lot competing for attention in U.S. politics. So how important will these inflation dynamics be for the upcoming elections?
Well, arguably, it's critical when it comes to these elections. Of course, as you note, it comes against the backdrop where the US president's popularity has been falling. The Democrats face a real risk of a wipeout in November where they don't control either house. And that leaves them very weak in the final 2 years of Biden's first term as president. And questions are rising already about whether he should or will even run again for a second term. And of course, you've got gas hovering around $5 a gallon. Still, that's very much sticking in voters' minds, and it comes against the backdrop also not just of inflation but a potential recession, warnings that the US might be facing a recession, and indeed the globe might be facing a recession. So if you put inflation and recession together, you've got really a political problem for the White House going into these elections, and then a multitude of other crises that he's dealing with as well. The war in Ukraine, obviously the recent overturning of the Roe versus Wade Supreme Court ruling, an outbreak of gun violence yet again in the US. So you've got all these things on his plate at the one time, and arguably not so much he can do on any of them to fix them. Limited ability to sort of influence the direction of any of these, and they're all going to come together in the run-up to November. But inflation really is the one in terms of the economy that's going to very much stick in the mind of voters.